Well, hello everybody. I am super excited to be joined by Sarah. She is the CEO and founder of Loveweld, as well as the co-founder with me on PJS and our CEO. I talk to Sarah every day, but I'm really still really excited to get to hang out with her and hear a little bit more on the PGS side about the Loveweld story, how we started, what is Sarah seeing in the industry and in the market right now. Sarah's incredibly gifted at kind of looking at all of that, getting really excited and seeing opportunities. And so I think there will be some really valuable and exciting nuggets for not just our PJS customers, but anybody who's in the permanent jewelry industry. And so with that, Sarah, I'll give you a second to maybe intro or say anything you'd like to share, and then we can dive in.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. I am currently in Austin, downtown, and you can see here, I'll give you a little, I'm in Loveweld Studio, our flagship, here before we open, finding a quiet time to meet you, and excited to talk about permanent jewelry today.
Amazing. Yes, we always love talking about permanent jewelry.
We're a little obsessed.
A little. Okay, so let's dive right in. So tell us, Sarah, a little bit about how Loveweld started. What was the permanent jewelry industry like all those years ago?
Well, permanent jewelry wasn't even a term when Loveweld started. So like permanent jewelry was not an industry. It was not really a thing, especially in the mainstream. I actually remember in my early days, like walking trade shows and trying to buy product and suppliers just like, huh? What are you doing? And even talking to the dealers of the technology that is primarily in permanent jewelry. And they're like, huh, it's interesting that you're trying to do this. I even had a supplier, a really good friend of mine, and caring friend. He was just like, hey, if you buy a machine and it doesn't work, like I will buy it back from you. So when I first Loveweld started, there was like blowtorched bangles in LA. There was a couple jewelry stores that I could find, one in New York, one in Paris, that were kind of doing what's more like permanent jewelry today as an ancillary service to their much bigger jewelry brand. And it sparked something in me, and I looked and looked and looked to see like, what is this? I come from the jewelry world. I'm a jewelry designer and maker by trade, and so do a lot of trend research for larger brands in design and development, and could not find it anywhere. And I was like, wait a second. Like, you never enter into something at this early of a stage. And I'm like, why is this not its own retail concept? So before I knew it, and the obsession of just thinking about permanent jewelry and like how this could be applied, Loveweld was born. And Loveweld is the first retailer to specialize in permanent jewelry. So we live, breathe, sleep, eat the idea of creating pieces, forever bound jewelry with our clients.
Amazing. That's really cool. You've been in this industry for a long time now. In the grand scheme, it hasn't been that long, but when it's a brand new thing, it evolves quickly, and it feels like we've been able to experience a lot of those changes and kind of ride the different waves of permanent jewelry.
Yeah.
So through your experience, what right now are you most excited about? What do you see on the horizon as you're kind of looking out that's getting you really excited?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just at the beginning of what permanent jewelry is going to be. Right now, permanent jewelry, as far as like the designs and the application, it's really neat. It's fun. I have a whole retail business, and then Permanent Jewelry Solutions, a wholesale business built around the concept. But similar to engraving, I see it as just a tool or an application to build a bigger thing, a bigger product line, a bigger experience, things like that. So we have on the horizon for both Loveweld and PJS a number of innovative ideas of how do we use this technology, not only just in permanent jewelry, but in customization within the jewelry business. We have patents on a couple of things that are coming out this year and next, which I'm super excited about. And we can get into it more, or maybe it's another conversation. But I'm really excited about the design that can happen around permanent jewelry, because right now it is, I'm seeing more in the marketplace, people just taking raw materials and compiling them. At both PJS and Loveweld, we actually do a lot of our product development and design from scratch, right? So we're designing with permanent jewelry wear in mind. And I'm seeing that in the industry. I've seen, we carry at Permanent Jewelry Solutions Riva bangles. And it's these bangles that are created with permanent wear in mind. So more of those things. And that's what I think is going to be kind of the next wave of permanent jewelry, is getting to see what creatives build and how they make permanent jewelry their own.
Absolutely. One question I have for you is, okay, you have this beautiful, I mean, we get to see your flagship studio in Lamar, grand opening this weekend. It's absolutely gorgeous. The team did an amazing job.
It did.
So you have this amazing, well-established, beautiful brand, retail brand across the nation. Why PJS? Why did you join me in this journey of establishing permanent jewelry solutions?
Well, I mean, in the early days of Loveweld, because that's where you started too, right? We were having to create and innovate so many things that didn't exist, right? So like, as we were scaling, we ran into inventory tracking issues, and there wasn't a system out there for tracking permanent jewelry. So how do you do a raw material into a finished good and track that? It was a family business to start, family and friends, and then you start being across country and having employees, wonderful employees, but employees handling your gold, handling your fine materials. So we had to come up with inventory tracking systems. We had to figure Loveweld scaled very, very quickly. And so we had to learn, actually, you helped me realize, so Hannah in the early days, she was the third employee of Loveweld. So very, 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 very early on. And she's like, Sarah, you have a big vision for this brand, but you're not going to be able to multiply yourself by the way you train. Like, you're really, really bad at it. And she's not wrong.
I don't think I said those words.
You did not. You were very kind. You were much more, but that's what I heard, and through the professional way that you relayed that. And so, and I know it's a weakness of mine, systems. And so you helped me build a system of training. So you helped build the first permanent jewelry training that I know of, that was very, very thoughtful, that went into detail and really made it to break down. And so we were able to, in that year after we built that training, how many people do you think you trained with that program? I mean, 50?
Yeah, 50, 75, a crazy amount of people.
It was a lot of people, and it worked. Like, we saw our QC go down, we saw customer experience go up, and it was probably not until 2 years that Loveweld had operated that permanent jewelry really came on the scene in a big way. So we started in 2020. It was really 2022, 2023 where that all really, really shifted. And it changed from us trying to create a marketplace to like, okay, it's now become a trend. And so we're riding the wave of trend. And in that riding the wave of trend, I had the manufacturers of the technology knocking on our door. I had some of the biggest suppliers in the US knocking on our door, and they're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, gosh, Let me tell you about it. And it was fun to just get to share all that we had created and innovated. But then it like dawned on me, like, we need to create this in a way that can be packaged and digestible. It's one thing to say how we did it. It's another to build trainings and build products and build a brand that's meant to help people have solutions in this industry that we've put millions and millions and millions of dollars investing in this industry. Everything that we have earned, sometimes to my chagrin, has gone back into what is permanent jewelry. So we've done a lot of investment in it, and in our capturing of what we've learned, we have been very thoughtful of wanting to package it in a way where we can multiply it. Loveweld is a beautiful brand, but it's not going to be the only expression of permanent jewelry. Right. And I'm so passionate about this industry because it drives human connection. And in a world that is very digital, it's such a great tool for building community, bringing life to a brick and mortar, and also just like creating a personalized touch for either your clients or like, gosh, I could even seeing like people with their schools, like doing something for their school colors in their elementary, and really kind of creating like the new t-shirt in permanent jewelry, right? We all growing up had the elementary school mascot t-shirt or high school mascot t-shirt. And this is another possible iteration of that. So why PJS? It's kind of like, why not? We have so much fun things to share, and it's a wonderful platform to get to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing all of that. So the other side of that coin of what's exciting you about permanent jewelry right now, another thought or another question I think that might be helpful for people that haven't had the experience of doing trend research and trying to understand how jewelry works. What do you see that's going to be fading away in the permanent jewelry world?
I do think we are probably, I think the trend's still upticking, right? So we're still going up on the trend curve, but we are seeing more, I don't think it's an oversaturation, but we are seeing more saturation within the market of permanent jewelry. And a lot of the permanent jewelry that I see just in the world is a lot of just like, pick a chain, you have just like a pile of charms, and they're all different colors and shades and materials, like and the chains it's lots of chains, and it's kind of reminds me of like the cruise ship, like chain by the inch, like where it's almost like you're bringing the bead store to your client and then asking them to create. I see that evolving to people who are really, really passionate. I think that will always exist, but I think there is room, and there's a trend that will go to people being more thoughtful about what it is that they're offering for customers. So, for example, Loveweld, and then also when I've been in the more traditional design space, you don't just pick something off the shelf and put it in front of your customer. Like, you study your customer, you study trends, you study materials, and what is the type of experience or value that you're wanting to offer your clientele. And so I have product lines that are launching with Loveweld that I've been working on for 2 years, because that's how long it took to thoughtfully think through, go through prototypes, try. We had professionals come from other parts of the jewelry industry to like help us understand the process and the application and how is this going to wear over time. And so I think not that you have to do that. I think that's a very extreme way of doing it, but I think there will even be a degree of people sourcing more thoughtfully. Like, what is it that I'm buying wholesale to create my own personal expression of permanent jewelry that is solely my own. So it's not going to be just a bunch of chains and a bunch of charms. It's going to be charms, like, to create example. I'll go back to the sports, the mascot, all of that. Like, I do sports permanent jewelry, and let's call it raw jewelry. And I'm not a sports person, so I apologize.
That was
but raw
the
jewelry.
dome. I love it. I loved it.
Rah with some pom poms. Raw jewelry, right?
Rah.
And and this person has like really cool number charms, and they have all the colors. Like, let's say it's in Texas. I'm in Texas right now, and it has the colors of the Longhorns, and it has the colors of the Dallas Cowboys, and it has, you know, we get into licensings with sports teams, but maybe you have like a paw print or a Longhorn charm, and maybe it's kind of like an adaptation, not an infringement of any licensing, but and you choose to curate that. And then you target not just like popping up anywhere, but you target tailgates and school assemblies and things like that. Football watching parties. This is really out of my bounds. I'm not a sports person. So someone who is a sports person, I hope this sparks something in you and you become obsessed with the permanent jewelry sports line, because it needs to exist. But all of that, like, that's where I see kind of things trending and going. Because the next place is like, okay, the market's here. How are you going to differentiate yourself within the market?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. One of PJS's passions is partnering with other businesses, yes. Even outside of jewelry, maybe within jewelry. But how do you, in your mind, how does that connection of permanent jewelry and, say, a tattoo shop or a salon, how do you see those two playing together?
Most definitely. I mean, this is a very timely conversation. I'm actually working today with a salon where they have, it's a franchise model, and they have locations all across the country, and they're wanting to expand their offerings within their salons and the service offerings. Because, as you know, driving traffic, like getting people, brand awareness, like people knowing that you exist within a community is a big deal. And so, you know, we go about that so many different ways through like SEO and ads, etc. And they're looking at permanent jewelry as an additional way to expand their offerings, but also engage with customers and bring them into their storefronts. Also, it's a creative medium, right? And so oftentimes tattoo artists and salon owners, they are creative and creatives. And it's always fun to just grow and expand just how you're able to create with your client. And so Loveweld, actually in its early days, partnered with a large tattoo company that like targeted a similar customer to us, like millennial women targeting. So it was a little bit of a different type of tattoo company, and it was like very complimentary. You have this permanent on your skin, permanent jewelry, and so I think oftentimes you'll even see showcase like tattoos and jewelry, and I think there's something about it. Like, if you think of the body as your canvas, you have, whether it's your hair or your nails or your tattoos, it's very natural that then your jewelry would be an evolution of that canvas, especially with the permanent effect, right? People purchase permanent jewelry different than they purchase just like jewelry they could take on and off. And it's usually with the thought and the intent of which you get a tattoo, at least at Loveweld, because we do the high end, high dollar and have a lot of ways that you could do very curated motifs and charms. And so we do see that at Loveweld, where people are really thoughtful about the pieces that they put on their bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to somebody who maybe is interested in the permanent jewelry business model, excited to do that, but maybe a little worried that they've missed the trend or they've missed the opportunity, they're a little too late to the game? Those kind of fears and thoughts are maybe plaguing their minds, but they're an entrepreneur who's excited about starting this business. What advice would you give to them about starting a permanent jewelry business right now? Other than go to PJS, of course.
There's that. PJS, we have the highest quality materials. Like, we customize our charms and our pieces for permanent jewelry. And then we're very, very thoughtful about the chains that we adopt and bring on. So yes, there's that. One was, I was actually speaking at, it was like a city conference the other day, and I asked the crowd, how many people here know what permanent jewelry is? 2 people out of that crowd raised their hand.
Wow.
So yes, the permanent jewelry community is growing, but have y'all ever heard of cookies? Have you ever heard of targeted ads? I think sometimes, like, when you're in permanent jewelry, when you're in a space, media, everything, right, it's an echo chamber of like your interest in permanent jewelry. I mean, even if you like go on a permanent jewelry site, you're now going to be bombarded by like ads, like permanent jewelry. And you're like, gosh, this is everywhere. But guys, it's a big world. I mean, it's billions and billions of people. And so that's my first thing is like, yes, it's not like it was for me 5 years ago, where everywhere I went, I was the only one.
Right. It was novel.
Yeah. So it's not going to be that. So it does take a little bit of marinating to scale. But on the side note is like, there's room for other Lovewelds. There's room, like, and Loveweld's a very, very big version. There's room for other boutiques takes on permanent jewelry. And so I think what I would say is it's not too late. I think I would challenge you to be very thoughtful of your why, and what it is you're wanting to do. Like, I don't think it's one of those like fad, make a quick buck. Unless you're the first one in your town to do it, then like go for it. But I will say, there's a lot of room for people to build thoughtful brands of permanent jewelry, and that thoughtfulness doesn't have to be like unique creativity. It could be excellent service. It could be, it could be a lot of different things. There's a lot of things that make businesses successful.
Absolutely. I just was, in a webinar earlier this week, learning from another business, and they are in the skincare kind of industry. Talk about an oversaturated market, right? Like, so many different kinds. And their thing that separates them is kindness. So it has nothing to do with they have a high quality, beautiful product, of course, but it had nothing. The thing that they were using to differentiate themselves wasn't really the product itself. It was this core value of doing everything in kindness. They have grown and scaled over the last 15 years to become a really successful skincare brand. And so I think that's so true, is it feels like there's a lot of permanent jewelry out there, and there will be a maturation that has to happen within the permanent jewelry industry, but that's so necessary. And so I think just reiterating that, what is your one thing? Like, what is the one thing that you're going to do that's going to separate you from everybody else? And not because you want to defeat the competition, but because you were made to do one thing. What is that one thing? It's not, you don't have to shift who you are. It's how do you be yourself and do that really, really well. And that's enough
within this company, right? So I mean, there's certain things, like in the same way, like if you're doing like in college, I didn't know what I was going to be. So I went and met with a counselor, and they gave me an aptitude test to like, these are the things you're more bent to. I do think within the permanent jewelry industry, there's probably things that I would ask, do you have the aptitude for? Like, do you like people?
Right.
Like, do you like people? Do you like talking to people? Is that something you enjoy? If not, I would consider if this is the industry for you. Do you like to do things with your hands? Do you like to create? If not, maybe this is not for you. But if you do, if you like to be creative, and maybe I have welders that maybe don't love people, but they love create, and they create some of the most beautiful pieces, and they're kind, right? They love people, but they're not extroverts. I think it's not a love people thing. It's like extroverted, introverted. So I would say if you have this creativity, sure, like permanent jewelry is for you. So there's different things that you could just naturally think of. Is this exciting for me in the same way that do you try on like being a hairstylist or a tattoo artist, or like, is this something exciting for me? And I think that's an important piece, right?
Of course.
But then like your why, just to give an examples, like Loveweld very early on established like our core values, like this is why we exist, right? So love is in the name. So for us, all those whys had to point to love. Like without love, why are we here is kind of something we go back to time and time again. But one is community. And you'll see that in the company, like we're hosting people in our spaces a lot. We have something called Sundays at our place where we host local businesses and artists and creatives and give them a space and platform to join in with Loveweld. Our innovation is one of them, right? And so our aim is to always be innovating within the industry, whether that's retail, whether that's permanent jewelry. It's always be trying something new, and we're always have a new initiative. We always have something that hasn't exist that we haven't seen in this space. Maybe it exists, but what is the Loveweld version? Or anyway, so we're always innovating. Integrity. And so that goes to our product, that goes with our customer service policies, and that goes with how we hire and fire. I mean, it very much is in the core of who we are. And then, Hannah, what's our fourth? Celebration. Yes. So like, for example, I am hosting the Austin team. We're wining and dining tonight, and we're celebrating a welder who has done 3,000 orders in her time here at Loveweld, which is quite remarkable.
Which means she's done more than 3,000. That's orders. So there could be several welds. There could be several. So she's probably done 5,000 welds on people, and minimally.
More than 4,000, because some of those are even events, or like an event where it's one order and
which
that
is absolutely
20 people, right? So I mean, probably more than my town growing up. I grew up in a very small Texas town. Like she's welded more people than that, and my entire town is covered in jewelry by Kirsten. So we celebrate our team members, we celebrate our customers. So one of the things that we do at Loveweld is once you hit a certain level, so Kirsten we're doing the team dinner for Kirsten, but a while back, probably a long time ago back, because she's way beyond it, she unlocked the ability to gift a diamond to a customer on the regular. And so we have like ways where our team can celebrate their customers through gifting diamonds. So different things like that. And so that's a really fun way for us to like hone in and be like, what is our expression? We don't need to be every expression of permanent jewelry, but why are we here? And what is our expression?
Right.
You know?
Exactly. So kind of starting with that, why do I want to do this? What excites me about permanent jewelry?
Yes.
And then,
write it down. Write it down.
100%.
Talk to your friends and family, like meditate on it. And then once you land on your why, start to like use that why as almost like a lens or a scope in how you look at the industry, how you look at your community, how you look at your business. And then you'll start to pull things to kind of echo that why. And before you know it, you'll have an ecosystem that one feels like you, feels like a reflection. And that's really important during the hard days. And like when things are like, to be anchored in your why. And then it's also like you fit, right? Like, it's like, oh, this is so you. This
Yeah.
company is you. And people really respond to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. What advice on the other side of that same coin would you give to somebody, a fellow business owner comes to you and says, I've been doing permanent jewelry for a couple years now, and I'm really struggling. I'm tired. I feel burnout. I am worried about competition. Those fears that creep into any entrepreneur's head. Am I doing the right thing? All of those questions. What advice would you give to that person?
Well, it kind of echoes a little bit of what I just said. I actually sat with a woman the other day in California, um, and got coffee with her. And she's in a different industry, but adjacent. In our storefronts, we're close to each other, so very much impacted by the ecosystem and economy in a very similar way. And she was burnout and tired, which I get there, probably more than I was like to just in this season. But I sat and I was like, well, what's your why? And I just listened. And in that, I said, does the way you're making decisions, are they reflecting that why? And she sat and she thought, and she's like, no. And I was like, you can't change all of these things. You can't change the economy. You can't change all of the different variables. It's like, but you can control. There are things you do have control over, and there are things that you can show up in a certain way. And I don't want to get too in depth on her story, but maybe I'll tell you what my response to her, because she asked, well, what's your why? And this market is particularly hard. And I said, my why is the people. My team members, especially in that particular market. Like, my why I'm there is for the team that I have, because it's amazing, talented women. And so therefore, because I'm there around them, I'm like, how can I create a culture and an ecosystem that allows them to thrive and allows them to grow? And so then that has been my focus like these last few months, and have seen some really cool instances from that. And your why might be, I want to put food on the table of my family. So then I might ask, okay, that's great. Is any of your why tied to permanent jewelry, right? Because I would say, in general, this is so nuanced. It's hard to say without like actually sitting and being able to dialogue with a person and be like, is permanent jewelry for you? Is owning your own business for you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's truly like, why are you here? Why are you doing it? If it's to get rich quick, I don't know very mmany industries or ways of doing your own business where that is sustainable. And I think it has to be bigger than that, personally, as a third generation entrepreneur.
But there's not a one size or one answer. But I think good. One thing that you said that I think is really important is hard times will come. We know that. The markets, the economy is wild. Consumers are not super dependable. But I think that word that you said about what are the things that you can control? What are the levers that you can pull?
Yeah.
And getting really clear on why you're doing what you're doing, makes it a little easier to weather those storms when they come.
100%.
Unfortunately, the storms.
Thanks for summarizing that.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, the storms will come. And so if you get really clear on why you're doing what you're doing, it just makes it a little easier.
100%.
And community is really, really important. Going back to our core values, finding those opportunities to connect with business owners like you did in LA, of sitting down with a fellow business owner who is struggling as well.
Yeah.
There's something really beautiful about being able to connect with people in kind of a similar season of you.
100%.
Because nothing's new. So this has happened before. Even though permanent jewelry is a new industry, it'll follow the same trends as
And
lot of
resilient,
damage.
be
Yeah.
resilient. I mean, how many times do you listen to people that are entrepreneurs or business owners and they're on the other side of their success, right? And there's always a story of being resilient. So if you really know you're supposed to be in this space, or just a tiny bit of you, or you're here, like maybe you don't know, but you're here, resilience goes a long way. You never know. And it might be that you have to pick up a little side work in order to like make this go. Like, ultimately you have to pay the bills. But if you keep pushing at it, you never know what's going to come out on the other side.
Yeah, of course. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking some time out of your trip down in Austin, your celebratory trip, and chatting with me. And at PJS, we're really excited to start having more and more of these conversations. You'll be seeing more of Sarah, hearing more about her life story and her entrepreneurial story, and we'll get to learn from her, which will be a gift to us all, including myself. And yeah, Sarah, we thank you so much for your time. We'll chat with you soon.
Talk soon.